Reissues, retro lines and collector's editions seem to be all over toy stores at the moment. With many lines such as Star Wars, Transformers and now even Ghostbusters coming along for the ride, the chance for you to relive your childhood memories has never been easier and never been cheaper as opposed to their vintage counterparts. That's of course if the scalpers don't get hold of them first. But that's another video for another time. So if you miss the days of playing with your favourite vintage toy lines, or you just can't afford to splash out the cash on that mint in box card just for the art, the reissues are the items for you. You are who the toy companies are aiming at, but with so many of the toy lines out there, the ones that really tug on your nostalgic heartstrings seem to be missing. I'm Paul the Toy Scavenger, and this is the top 5 toy lines that need to be reissued. So before we start, thank you for viewing the video and remember to subscribe so you can keep up to date with all my toy scavenging adventures. Also, which toy lines would you like to see reissued? Leave a comment below. So today we're counting down the top toy lines that haven't been reissued yet but deserve another chance to shine. We'll take a look at why they were so popular and also why they should be brought back for the new generation to enjoy in 2023 and beyond. Just to make sure we are not talking about new properties of these figures being made with a modern twist, or them being made for collectors with more articulation such as NECA or Super 7. We are interested in the exact figures being released again, so let's get into it. Toxic Crusaders by Playmates. This toy line was based on the animated series of the same name, which was a comedic spin-off of the classic horror film The Toxic Avenger. The figures were highly detailed and had limited articulation, but they had awesome gross out features along with glow-in-the-dark accessories, which makes them perfect for a comeback. The toy line was so popular that it even spawned a second series, which was unfortunately cancelled. So to have these would be amazing. So it's time for Toxie and his crew of mutant outcasts to clean up the toy aisle once again. But why haven't we seen a reissue of this toy line yet? It's likely due to the fact that the rights to the property have changed hands multiple times and it's not been picked up. With Playmates smashing out their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle property, which seems like every other month, you would think that these 90s heroes weren't far behind, but they just don't own the license. If they could sort that licensing out, there'd be no stopping them cleaning up the streets and finding their way into collectors' homes. Brave Star by Mattel. So this toy line was released in the 80s and it was also based on an animated series of the same name. These figures were actually quite detailed. They were also larger than your average figure, coming in at nearly 8 inches and featured articulated limbs like no others of the time, making them perfect for recreating the scenes from the show. Bravestar also had a great selection of playsets, vehicles and other merchandise. But unfortunately, Bravestar's strength for the bear came to an end in the 80s due to sales dropping. But he is remembered very fondly by those that watched the show and played with the toys. So why hasn't this been reissued yet? Again, it's possible that the rights to the property have not been picked up by another toy company, or that the company that owns the rights has not seen enough demand in the reissue. That's really a shame because if you was a fan of the show, you would know that this toy line was one of the best of its time and it still has a cult following today. Even just a small release of these figures again would spark some nostalgia in the toy aisles, and who knows, it could lead to bigger things for Bravestar in the future, such as a feature film or even a re-release. So what is third on our list? Thundercats by LJN. Again, like many toy lines in this list, it was released in the 80s and it was based on the popular animated series Thundercats. The figures had battle action, light up eyes, great cartoon detail, but limited articulated limbs. They matched perfectly to the scenes from the show. Thundercats also had a great selection of playsets and vehicles such as the Cat's Lair, the Thunder Tank and Mum-Ra's Tomb. But unfortunately, the Thundercats have not been seen in this toy form since the original release. They have, however, been released in newer forms, but some fans would be craving for their favourite characters to come back to those toy aisles someday soon. So why hasn't this been reissued? It's likely that the original company and the factories that made them do not exist, meaning today it's quite hard to use the original moulds. But I'm sure Mattel with all their contacts could make a limited run of these warriors once again. Especially as the originals always seem to have some sort of plastic degeneration or damage, and finding them on card is such an expensive hobby. So bring them back to the toy aisles with their original cards. I know I'd buy myself a lino on card, and to have a figure or a character that perhaps wasn't made would be an extra bonus for me as a collector. Mighty m.a.s.k by Bluebird. These playsets were all the rage in the 90s and for good reason. Each set featured small, highly detailed environment for the minifigure Mighty m.a.s.k to explore and battle monsters in. This toy line was known for its creative playsets and amazing monsters. But unfortunately, Mighty m.a.s.k's adventures came to an end in the 90s, and it's been a long time since we've seen any new playsets. Mighty Max's cancellation remains such a murky subject for many fans, and many fans theorise that the dark themes and the use of horror imagery brought down the hammer, though others believe that it was always meant to be short-lived. So this may be why it hasn't been reissued yet. But is it still too dark for kids nowadays? Of course, it's possible that the rights to the property are not owned by the toy company, and that company that owns the rights has not seen enough demand for the reissues, just like mentioned before. But I'm sure as adults, if we saw these in a toy shop on the pegs, they would be definitely coming home with us for ourselves, and of course, for our kids. Yeah, it's about the kids really, isn't it? And the collection. And finally, number 1. Mobile Armoured Strike Command, m.a.s.k by Kenner. This toy line of action figures and vehicles is, in my opinion, one of the greatest toy lines of the 80s. It was released in 1985 and it quickly became a favourite among kids and collectors alike. m.a.s.k combined the excitement of transforming vehicles with the thrill of having a secret action, and it featured a diverse cast of characters with unique abilities and helmets that had special powers. Really should have been called Helmet, not m.a.s.k. The toy line was so popular that it even spawned an animated TV series, comic books and other merchandise. There was even m.a.s.k the movie, but that was just a bunch of other animated series stuck together. But unfortunately, m.a.s.k has not been reissued since the original run. There have been a similar line called Vortec, which completely flopped, and also there's been a couple of modern m.a.s.k toys released in the form of Mac Tracker. One featuring in G.I. Joe a specialist tracker with Condor-like weapons, and the other was cast in the crossover attempt with Transformers and other 80s properties called Revolution, and that was in the form of a figure on his own, but still no vehicles in sight. Now I know I would be buying these vehicles, and I'm sure you would too. So why hasn't it been reissued yet? Now, although this property is held by Hasbro, and there is always rumours of it coming back, one of the main reasons that it hasn't come back in toy form is that the vehicles are actually based on real vehicles of the time and used their names. They also used Goodyear tyres. These are not owned by Hasbro, and to use them again could prove quite costly. This makes it difficult for them to reissue the toy line without those key components. Additionally, the toys were very inventive and intricate, and many of them don't stand the test of time when kids are involved. They were made to be played with, but they also broke quite easily. And to have a mint condition m.a.s.k toy from your childhood is quite hard. So while there has been some modern m.a.s.k toys released, they have not had a full issue of the original line. It's just such a shame, and there's still a lot of love for the m.a.s.k brand, and it'd be great to see it return in all its 80s glory. There's a huge call for these toys, and collectors today still bid the best they can to get these items. That's why this is number 1. I mean, also it had the best theme song that's catchy, and you can't forget it once you hear it. That's got to be another reason. Overall, each of these toy lines were popular for different reasons, but they all have the same thing in common. They were all ahead of their time, filled with creative designs and characters, and they all engaged the imagination of children and adults as well. They all have great potential to be reissued in 2023 or beyond, and would be a great addition to any toy aisle today. The nostalgia factor alone would make them a hit with fans of the original toy lines, and introducing them to a new generation would be a great way to keep these beloved brands alive. They could take off and get themselves a feature-length film like Transformers and make these toy companies a lot of money, which, to be fair to them, is what they want. We just want nostalgia and we just want toys. But who knows, maybe in the future we'll see some of these toy lines being reissued and we can all relive our childhood memories once again. So that is my top 5 toy lines that should be reissued. What lines would you like to see being reissued? Leave a comment and remember to subscribe. Thanks for viewing, and remember to check out my other videos and playlists. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I've been Paul the Toy Scavenger. I'll see you soon.